He has been the recipient of a Future Leaders of Manitoba Award and a Manitoba Youth Achievement Award, both for community service. He was recognized as a Global National News Everyday Hero in March of 2012. In 2008, he developed ARROWS, Youth Engagement Strategy, which empowers youth by educating the educators, social workers, youth, and community workers that are on the front lines working with Aboriginal young people. In 2010, he founded EO, Aboriginal Youth Opportunities, a youth-led anti-gang organization committed to breaking stereotypes and creating opportunities in the community. He also leads Meet Me at the Bell Tower, an anti-violence rally that occurs weekly in the heart of the north end of Winnipeg on Selkirk Avenue. Michael speaks to business leaders, labor groups, youth educators, and many others on a variety of subjects. While the subject matter may change, one thing that stays consistent is his message. Programs don't change, relationships change people. Michael is known for his straight-up and heartfelt style that will leave you moved, inspired, and ready for action. Brothers and sisters, please join with me in welcoming Michael Redhead Champagne.
Hello. Hello. Oh, it works. What's up, everybody? My name is Michael Redhead Champagne, and look I don't even need to be standing at the microphone, and you can still hear me. Okay, I'm done kidding around. Thank you so very much for giving me an opportunity to come and speak with all of you today. There are a few things that I wanted to make sure that I bring to all of our attention and share with you. I want to tell you a little bit about my experiences and where I come from and how a little Cree boy from Shamattawa is somehow addressing a convention such as this today. I want to think about the reasons why trade unions and the work that you all do within the labor movement and in your workplaces is so very important, and how today is the beginning of moving forward. And regardless of the outcomes and regardless of which way the vote falls, at the end of the day, we are all here for the betterment of our community. And regardless of this winner or that winner, I think it's really important for all of us to remember that representing 30,000 people in this province is a heavy task. It's a heavy task, and I'm reminded of 1919, of the general strike, when 30,000 individuals from this city stood together and said, we deserve more. And they didn't do that because they wanted anything in their pockets or because they wanted benefits for themselves. Part of it, for sure. But these sacrifices and that general strike came to the forefront of national attention because we were doing something not for ourselves, but for our children and for the next generation. And we have to remember those types of sacrifices when we come to events such as this, because we're not always going to end up being on the side that, well, it's not about sides, all right? We're not always going to end up with the result that we wanted, but at the end of the day, we are all here standing shoulder to shoulder, and we have to remember the generations that are going to come after us. So as important as it is for us to have our voices heard today, what's important is for us to create a structure where young people will be able to step into this role, the same role that all of you are filling today, in the future. And those young people will have an opportunity to live these words that I have heard so frequently this morning: accountability, transparency. All right, making sure that we are representative of the people that we serve. Now, I probably should have told you who I am. I'm originally from Shamattawa Cree Nation. I am a product of the child welfare system. I grew up in poverty. I grew up in the north end of Winnipeg. And there are challenges associated with being a young Native person, young Native man from CFS, in the North End growing up in poverty. Now, a lot of people hear those phrases and hear those terms, and they think of all the reasons why I should not be successful. And when the odds are stacked against us, I think that's the time where we have to remember, we have to take the labels and the negativity that people place upon us. We got to flip it on its ass. We got to. And so that's why today, at only the age of 25, I am very much happy and proud to be standing in front of you today, not only alive, not only out of jail, but having graduated from high school, having participated in post-secondary at both the University of Winnipeg and University of Manitoba. I don't have my degree yet, but it's coming. And the reason why I do these things, exactly the same reason why you do this very important labor work today, is not for my benefit. It's not so I can have a better financial situation. It's not so I can have all of the perks. That's not what I'm trying to accomplish here, and that's not what you're trying to accomplish here either. So what we really have to do is we have to think about the values that put all of us into this fight. Because realistically, that's exactly what is happening right now. And how we choose to carry ourselves in the moment of battle is going to determine the next steps. It's going to determine the example that we set for all of those young people that are watching you today, myself included. I am inspired. I am moved by the commitment that I have seen here this morning from some of the individuals that have come up to these microphones, some of these individuals that are standing up here hoping to be elected, and the fact that there are opportunities for us to participate in conventions such as this in very dynamic ways. I do believe we are being live streamed right now. So for all the people that are watching us that aren't in the room right now, what is up? Now, I noticed that there's a bit of a social media theme with this particular convention. Proud to like my union, all right? That's the Facebook like thumb, all right? And those of you that are tweeters, if you like to tweet, make sure you guys are using the hashtag MGEU12, right? There's that little thing underneath. Look, I can see it. Anyway, so I think that thing's pretty cool. What we are doing when we participate in using social media like Twitter or Facebook is we are putting ourselves out there for the next generation to see, all right? And that is really, really important. It was important for me because for a long time, I didn't know the important work that trade unionists did. I didn't understand what the labor movement was. And I was really lucky because in 2010, I began working with an organization called Safe Workers of Tomorrow. Now, and because of the work of visionary leaders like Ellen Olfert, we have been able to have an organization that goes out and speaks to thousands of young people every single year on the importance of our rights in the workplace so that our kids can be just as safe as we are. To talk about worker rights, to talk about hazards, to talk about legislation. In my role at Safe Workers of Tomorrow, I was the Indigenous liaison, and I was honored to work with individuals such as Alan Beach. I was able to work with many of you that are in this room today to be able to give a presentation that not only talked about legislation and safety, prevention, and all of those details, but also talked about the importance of our spirits when we're in the workplace and how we have to be balanced. We have to talk about mental and physical safety. Of course we do. But we also have to talk about emotional safety and spiritual safety. And if we remember that every one of us has a spirit, a mind, a body, and a heart, and when we do our work, we acknowledge and respect that each of those parts of us has different needs and requires different accommodations that we can achieve if we are being democratic and we are being listeners, good listeners. Now, I wanted to tell you a little bit of a story because, stories are a very effective way of getting our messages across. So I want to tell you a story about a small group that I started once upon a time, also in 2010. Apparently 2010 was a good year. Now, I started this group called AO. Now, I don't really like saying things all by myself, so I'm going to need your help. Now, I need you to repeat after me. I want you to say, AO! AO! Oh, you can do better than that, you guys. Repeat after me. Say, AO! AO! There we go. That's so much. There's the energy. I feel it. AO, what is that? That's Aboriginal Youth Opportunities. This is a youth-led, youth-driven, idea-based anti-gang. And this group came to light, came into existence, because us as young people were not feeling heard. Myself and a group of other young people, primarily from the North End, were working within Aboriginal organizations, community groups, our own workplaces, and we got to a point where we felt like we were not being heard. There's this thing called tokenism. All right, there's a thing called tokenism, and I guess you can tell from my tone of voice, I don't like tokenism very much. I don't like tokenism because it's not sincere. And we were seeing a lot of double standards in these organizations, where they would say, we want to support you, and we want to hear you. But as soon as we would start talking, la, 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 we were not being heard. We were not being acknowledged. And that's not sincere. Here's the thing about young people. They can smell bullshit from a mile away. They can. So, 2010, it was March. It was the springtime, the beginning of Mother Nature coming back to life. Very important time for the globe. Always gives us as the people a lot of energy to begin new things, to try new things. It's like a new beginning every single year that we get in the springtime. And so in March of 2010, I asked 24 young people that I had gotten to know over the years, growing up in the North End, working as a youth worker, working as a community youth worker, and being able to connect with young people as a tutor, as a mentor. And they came to Thunderbird House. And at Thunderbird House, I shared with them a few different opportunities. And at the end of our gathering, I said, all right, guys, now what? We all came together. We talked a little bit about what we can do in the future. Now what? And they said, Michael, this can't be a one-off. We can't just come together one time for you to give us opportunities. We need to be a group. And if we stand together, we can be heard. Sounds a little bit like a labor movement, doesn't it? And so I said, all right, let's do this then. Let's be a group. AO, Aboriginal Youth Opportunities. And it's exciting because in 2.5 years, we have grown so much. And we began as an anti-gang. Often, movements and groups come out of direct opposition to something else. We came about as a direct opposition to gangs. You read about gangs all the time in the newspaper, hear about it on the radio. Google North End of Winnipeg, you'll hear a lot about gangs, a lot about violence. But it made us ask ourselves the question, why are so many of our brothers and sisters and our family members and our friends and our peers, why are they joining gangs? What does a gang do? A gang does three main things. Provides a sense of belonging, provides a sense of safety, it provides access to more resources. Oh yeah, and they do illegal activities. Okay, so that's a gang. Until you get to the illegal activities part, it doesn't sound too bad. And so when we got together and we called ourselves AO, we said we wanted to be an anti-gang. And instead of engaging in illegal activities. We wanted to engage in community building activities, community renewal, creating opportunities for our peers to have a voice so that they can be heard and they can have their concerns dealt with in a good way. AO. And so, in 2.5 years, we have been able to accomplish an immense amount of work. And it's interesting because we have a very different model than most organizations. And we had faced some struggles in our beginnings as an anti-gang. And already, only 2.5 years into existing, we have learned some very important lessons about adapting and about being flexible and about responding to the needs of the people that we serve. And so we realized, after creating the brand new banners on Selkirk Avenue, the first new banners in 20 years in the North End, we had 14-year-old kids that for their entire life walked up and down Selkirk Avenue and they looked up, and instead of seeing banners that represented them and their community, they saw skeletal, ragged emptiness as the banners that represented their community. And after AO got involved, with a few other dynamic people from our leadership team, partnering with schools, partnering with community centers, partnering with businesses, and partnering with the municipal government, we were able to facilitate a $16,000 renewal of Selkirk Avenue with 5 youth-designed banners, designed by that 14-year-old kid that for their entire life did not see anything better. We have started a North End newspaper called The Forward because we want to focus on moving our community forward. And if the media isn't going to cover the right kind of stories, the positive stories of community building, we will write them ourselves. In 2011, we began Meet Me at the Bell Tower, an anti-violence rally that still happens on November 18th, 2011. We got sick of it. We got sick of the funerals. We got sick of the suicides. We got sick of the lateral violence. We got sick of the gossip. We got sick of the backstabbing within our own community. And we began this anti-violence rally, and we only wanted to do it once. But guess what? On that first night, November 18th, there were 6 of us that had planned this. We thought there were going to be 6 people at the bell tower to rally with us. And it was -40. It was -40. 40 people came. 40 people came. And we said to those 40 people, we as young people are going to be the change, and we are going to stop the violence through our example and by role modeling that to our peers. But we recognized that we couldn't do it by ourselves. And so we put the call out there to the rest of the community, to the rest of the North End, to the rest of Winnipeg, to say, will you stand by us? Will you stand behind these young people that are taking a stand against violence in our communities because we're sick of burying the people that we love? And guess what? The next week, 100 people came out. 100 people came out to support us little rowdy North End kids trying to make our community a safer place for ourselves and for the little ones in our lives. And I'm really proud to say that yesterday, we had our 46th bell tower. It's still going every single Friday. Since November of 2011, we are still going. Now, how did we accomplish this? How did we accomplish this? We don't have a board of directors. We don't have funding. We don't have a mission statement. We don't have a vision statement. We don't have any of those things that technically make an organization, and it has been hard for us. Because remember, we began as an anti-gang. And when we called ourselves an anti-gang, we are pitting ourselves directly against another group of people. And because of the advice of one of our young people, they said, I don't think we can be an anti-gang anymore. I don't think that this is accurate. because it's those young people that are making the decision to be involved in gangs that we want to reach out to. It is those brothers and sisters of ours that have made decisions that have led them to negative places, to possibly joining a gang, to participating in the illegal activities, to even becoming victims or perpetrators of violence themselves. And so we took a step back this spring, and we said, whoa, are we really an anti-gang anymore? Are we really just a small group of people intended to be opposition to another group? And we said, no, we're not an anti-gang at all anymore. We're a movement. And what a movement is a series of events and activities, thank you very much, series of events or activities that take place all over, but all with the same goal. Exactly like the labor movement. Regardless of which local you're in, regardless of what your occupation is, all of us together are working towards the same goal. This is a movement. And out of the north end of Winnipeg, same place where the Ukrainian Labor Temple sits, the same place where the bell tower, the original City Hall bell tower for Winnipeg, sits, another movement began, the AO movement. And we were able, at that point, to work cooperatively in partnership with a group of other people to step into the digital age. Because up to that point, we'd been on Twitter. Yeah, sure, you could like us on Facebook. That's great. But at that point, through a partnership with the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Youth Secretariat, we were actually able to get a new website and rebrand our movement as what it actually was. AOmovement.com. Wow. Ayo! So I want to just share a lesson that we learned shortly after gathering ourselves together as AO in 2010. We were going to make our first media appearance. And we wanted to be able to explain, no matter who was asked the question, we all wanted to give the same response, right? This is about consistency. So it doesn't matter if they ask Michael, or if they ask Fred, or if they ask Joanne. Those aren't real people, I'm just making them up. But it doesn't matter who they ask, who's involved with AO. Whoever you ask, you're going to get the same answer. So we drafted something that I wanted to share with you guys today. A little something we like to call our SHIT model. Seriously, it's the SHIT model. Now, we like acronyms at AO. AO itself is an acronym. We have a youth engagement strategy called ARROWS, an acronym. And now we have this thing called SHIT, also an acronym. Now, SHIT has really become our credo. It's our, I guess before we didn't have a vision statement or a mission statement, I guess that's what this SHIT is. Kind of. A little shittier, though. This is what it stands for. S, stereotypes. And this is a lesson I think all of us can learn. We knew that we had to address the stereotypes that the broader public thought of Aboriginal young people. So that's why we began adamantly working with media as much as we could. We went and spoke on CBC for their first ever tweet up. We started our own darn newspaper. So we knew that we had to work cooperatively with the media so that we could break the stereotypes and lead by example so that the rest of the world saw Aboriginal youth, especially those of us that come from care, poverty, or the inner city, we're not all bad. And for every negative story you read about in the newspaper, there are 50 of us standing at the bell tower trying to make things better. And so, stereotypes. The H of our SHIT model is hypocrisy. Now, hypocrisy, what does that mean? Hypocrisy means I say something for you. You guys all have to abide by this rule. But you know what? It doesn't apply to me. That's hypocrisy. All right, I'll give you an example that was really common when I was a youth worker. Let's pretend like instead of at a convention, we're all now at a drop-in center. Okay, so welcome to the drop-in center, everybody. So now that we're here at the drop-in center, you guys are all the young people here. we have a rule. No cell phones. No cell phones allowed. But guess what? Hello? Oh, yeah. Oh, no. The rules don't apply to me. I'm a staff person. I'm on the executive, right? All of those things, okay? So we just have to remember hypocrisy, all right? So if I say a rule is good for you, that rule's got to be good enough for me. If I expect you to use certain language, I use that language. The I, institutions. Because we know that if we're going to make change, it has to be about more than just the today. It has to be some type of a change that can move into the future. All right, we have to work inside of these institutions, whether we like them or not. We have to work cooperatively inside these institutions so that we can create policy changes, so that we can create opportunities for legislation to reflect our values and the requests and the needs of our members. Institutions, education, healthcare, politics, all of these, labor. And the T, teachings. Teachings. What lessons have already been learned? What lessons have already been shared? What examples have already been set that we can learn from? This is about humility. This is about understanding it's not about us. It's about creating a world where our kids are going to be okay. And it's by listening to the elders and those that have come before us, but it also comes from listening to the young people and what their ideas are and what they have to say. And so we have to create room within our forums and our gatherings and the different types of activities that we engage in to listen to the people that have that experience, but also to create space for young people, a fresh set of eyes, to be able to give their perspective. So regardless of what the outcomes are, we are going to be okay if we address stereotypes, if we address hypocrisy, if we get inside these institutions, and if we acknowledge the teachings that have been shared with us. We break shit. So I want to finish, and I want to leave all of you with a challenge. A challenge to break the stereotypes that people think of the union, the big scary union. Address those stereotypes through your example. Be loud if you got to. A radio station gave us a megaphone at the bell tower so we could be loud and help break those stereotypes. Do what you got to do. Work cooperatively with one another, with the media, with the broader public, so that they begin to garner a better sense of understanding of the very important work that is happening here at this convention and within your locals. Think of the hypocrisy that you have witnessed in your life and corrected in your own actions. Speak up, but you have to walk the talk as well. Remember the institutions, all right? Remember the politics of it all, right? And remember not to just blindly back one party just because they claim to be representative of our values. We have to question everything. And the reason why we question those things is because we don't want our young people or our old people or any of us to become the victims of apathy and not caring about what happens and just letting things be. That's not okay. So we have to work inside of these institutions and challenge people at every turn that we can. And remember the teachings, whether that's love, whether that's respect, whether that's humility. Remember the values of those strikers in 1919 when 30,000 people came together to stand up for us today. We have an opportunity to do that once more, to work together as one group of people and speak with one voice, that we will acknowledge those teachings and we will move forward in a good way together. Thank you very much for listening to me today. Have a great convention, everybody.
You know what? I'm a child welfare worker. Wonderful. Thank you so much.